All right, we are at the recipes section of the IFTTT training, and this is where the magic happens. So this is where we're going to actually make the trigger and actions, in other words, recipes. That's what IFTTT calls them, where we're going to set a trigger and then cause an action. So whenever a trigger trips or performs or fires, then an action will occur, and that's what we're going to set with these recipes. So there's a few things I want to go over about this. Two primary trigger types in the training. In our training for IFTTT SEO Academy, we're going to be going over two primary trigger types. YouTube being the trigger, and an RSS. RSS, if you're going to be doing blog syndication, you're going to want to use your blog's RSS feed as the trigger point. And if you're doing syndication from any one of the other blog properties, such as Blogger, Tumblr, WordPress, and even Weebly and Medium, you're going to want to use the RSS feed as the trigger point, okay? And there's some reasons why, because essentially you could, and this will make more sense when we start to go through setting up the recipes, but you could actually use like Blogger as the trigger, or Tumblr as the trigger, or WordPress as the trigger, but I found that those recipes aren't quite as consistent as when you just use the RSS feed from one of those. And the other part that makes it easier just to use RSS recipes, and you'll see how we create these in just a moment, and plus I'm going to provide you with pre-made recipe URLs, is that you only need to know how to set up one type of recipe that way, right? Or two if you're going to do YouTube stuff, and that's it. It makes it very, very simple. When you start having to do a bunch of different Blogger recipes, and in a bunch of different Tumblr recipes, and in a bunch of different WordPress recipes, that's a hell of a lot of recipes to keep track of. Whereas with RSS recipes, it's just one set of RSS trigger recipes with different action channels. So like RSS2 Blogger, RSS2 Delicious, RSS2 Bitly, RSS2 Digo, RSS2 Evernote. You know, my point is that you only need to keep one set of RSS recipes that you can use multiple RSS feeds for, or multiple trigger channels for, which could be Blogger, Tumblr, WordPress, Medium, any one of those. So without it sounding too confusing, hopefully, I'm going to show you what that means as we go through the next several series of sets of videos where I show you how to set up some RSS feed, or excuse me, some recipes that are going to be triggered by either YouTube or RSS. And then you'll understand, I'll do a follow-up video, follow-up lesson where I talk about how you use the RSS recipes for trigger, for the triggers for any one of the other blog properties. And when we get into the advanced training, which is the next module, we're going to talk about setting up tiered networks. And when we set up tiered networks, we're just going to use the same set of RSS recipes that we create in the first tier. We're going to use, but all we're going to do is change the trigger point, but it's still going to be an RSS trigger. It's just going to be that the RSS feed that triggers it is going to be different. And so it just keeps it a hell of a lot easier to keep track of when you only have two main sets of recipes to keep track of. In this case, YouTube and RSS. However, that said, you are free to use all types of triggers. You can use Vimeo as a trigger, Dailymotion, SoundCloud, Twitter, Facebook. We encourage you to play with IFTTT. Try to figure out some of your own and develop some of your own recipes that are specific to your marketing needs or your SEO needs or whatever, okay? Whatever you're trying to accomplish, you can play with IFTTT once you understand the concept, you see how everything works, and you get comfortable with it, and start to develop your own recipes. Get creative. You don't have to stick to exactly what it is that we show. We do recommend that when you set up the networks that you set them up the way that we show you, but after you've gotten comfortable with them, you become familiar with them, then you can begin to play around. I recommend that you set up a test network, a test syndication network that you do your testing on from other, using other trigger channels and things like that, so that you're not destroying like a branded network in case things go south or go wrong or go sideways, which happens from time to time with recipes, especially when you're experimenting. But once you've developed some of your own methods, then you can certainly apply them to even your branded networks if you'd like. All right. So again, we highly recommend that you play around. We encourage you to test different trigger types. If you're doing podcasting, for example, and you use SoundCloud as one of your audio players that you could use SoundCloud to syndicate your podcasts out across the web. If you like Vimeo or Dailymotion instead of just being YouTube, you're certainly more than welcome to use those as trigger points. Twitter, we have a whole entire training course called Twitter SEO Academy where we use IFTTT to syndicate tweets, and it's very, very powerful. Facebook, if you are real active on Facebook or your Facebook page is real active and you want to use Facebook as a syndication point or a trigger point, you're absolutely able to do that with IFTTT. So I just wanted to go over a few of these. The training is going to show you how to set up a few recipes so that you understand the concept, but I am not going to record a training video for every single recipe. It's absolutely unnecessary. It's ridiculous. It's a lot of repetitive stuff that you don't need to see me do 20 times while I set up 20 recipes. It's a waste of your time watching that. It's a waste of my time recording the videos and narrating the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the following video, I'm going to show you how to set up a few YouTube recipes, and then I'll show you in another video how to set up a few RSS recipes. And then I'm going to provide you with a list of recipe URLs that you're free to use, and I'm going to show you how to use those too. I'll do another video showing you how to use the public recipe or shared recipe URLs that I'm going to provide to you. Okay, because that's going to save you. There's no reason for you to manually create a bunch of recipes, especially when you're first setting up your network, when you can just grab a shared recipe URL that I've already provided, paste it into your address bar, hit enter, go to that recipe and just make a couple small edits to make it specific for your network, and then hit save button. Okay, or use recipe or whatever button, because there's really no reason for you to go through and actually create the recipes when I can share created recipes with you that will work. All right, so the only reason why I'm going to show you how to create a few recipes for both YouTube and RSS is so that you understand the concept, so that in the event that something breaks down in IFTTT, one of your recipes stops working, you don't need to come crying to us saying, what's going on? I don't understand. You'll understand how to create recipes on your own, so you should be able to figure out and troubleshoot recipes that stop working. Okay, so in the following video, we'll get right into setting up some YouTube recipes.